what happens if you are doing C programming. You know what happens with Java. It is because Java is also borrowed from C programming. It's also borrowed from C++. So C sharp with the C++, with the Java, it's just as good as it's a single language. Why? Because they work on the same principle, which is object-oriented programming. That's why you see that when you're learning C sharp, when you're learning visual programming, you also learn um, object-oriented programming. Why? Because C sharp is also an OOP programming language. It supports the concept of object-oriented programming. So it's as good as when you're doing object-oriented programming using Java. When you're now learning in C sharp, you will find out that you'll be doing the same thing. But anyway, now let's look at what is this C sharp, right? So C sharp is a programming language developed by Microsoft that runs on the .NET framework. So there is what you call this .NET framework, and then there is what you call C sharp. So C sharp is just a programming language that runs on the .NET framework. So I think you need to really understand what is .NET framework and what is C sharp so that you'll be able to differentiate these two things. The C sharp is not the programming language that we use to write those codes, whatever, and it runs on the what? On the .NET framework, something like that. So this is just an introduction, but let me just maybe skip it and go to the introduction so that maybe you could look at what is C sharp really. So if you look at it, C sharp is just an object-oriented programming language created by Microsoft that runs on the what? On the .NET framework, and C sharp is the roots from, if you look at it, from the C family, and the language is close to other popular languages like C++ and Java. So do not be intimidated. Thanks for those that have accepted someone who wanted to join. By this term C sharp, whatever. What we have been doing C++, what we've been doing in Java, you find out that it's going to be the same thing. Nothing much. Right, so the first version was released in 2002, and the latest version, though it is it is no longer the latest version, the C sharp 13. This one was released in November 2025. I'm sure there's C sharp 14, which was released either today or something like that, today or yesterday, something like that. So if you look at that, C sharp is used for mobile applications, desktop applications, web applications, websites, games, virtual reality, database applications, and more. So this actually gives you a reason why should I have to learn C sharp? Why do I need to learn C sharp? So C sharp is one of the most popular programming languages in the world. It is easy to learn and simple to use. It has huge community support. This thing is very, very important when you're looking for a language to learn. Why? Because whenever you get an error, whenever you get any issue with the programming language, where do you run to? You run to the community, you run to those who know, who understand this programming language. So that support around that programming language will help you to do your system or whatever, to do what you are doing there really quick. And you will not be stuck in the park whenever you are doing whatever you are doing using that language. So C sharp is an object-oriented programming language which gives a clear structure to programs and allows code to be reused, lowering the development cost. Why so? Because it's an object-oriented programming language. So that's why it does give that clear structure, and also the issue of reusing the code. So a C sharp is close to C, C++, and Java. It makes it is for programmers to switch to C sharp or vice versa. So if you start by learning C sharp, it will be easier for you to learn C++ and C as well and Java. If you start from C, C++, Java, then it will be easier for you to go for C sharp. So so when you're complaining, I'll be like, why complaining? Because if you look at it, you've done C, you've done C++, then you've done Java together. So switching to C sharp, it must be something which is very, very easy for you to do, right? So I think let's look at what you need and what you want for you to be able to code this C sharp. I think you have been doing this when you're doing your assignments. So I think most of the things you know, right? So for you, what you need to do when you want to write C sharp and you test the code, whatever, something like that, what you need the IDE, the integrated development environment. In Java, we're using the Eclipse IDE. And there are many other clips, there are many other IDs that you can use for Java, right? Like the NetBeans, whatever, all those things. But here you use Visual Studio Community, right? Why? Because it is a free one, and then you just click this link, whatever, then you can download it. And then when you are installing, you need also to click this the .NET desktop development, so that you'll be able to write your C sharp code, the console as well, and also maybe this one as well for forms, something like that, so that you'll be able to do forms. We talk about this when you are doing forms. For now, let's really focus on the console application. Why? Because we want to learn the basics, and then now when you understand the basics, it will be now easier for you to put the interface around it. And then on the back end, that's where you'll be writing C sharp there, and then on the front end there, you'll be maybe just drag and drop or the elements on a form, something like that. And then after that, you do create your project here. You click this one to create a new project, and then you also need to choose the platform here, and then you click this console application there, and then where do you want to save, whatever, something like that, and then hence you be having this basic program created for you. So this one I think is the older version of Visual Studio. Now maybe it will just create without showing you all these whatever something. Then it will be maybe just showing you this hello world. But there's a way that you can just put this or everything. But other this is the basic structure of a C sharp program. We talk about it later when we are talking about but maybe let's just talk about it. Like here, if you look at it, we've got this using system. I think we've been doing Java where we could import a lot of things at the top here. And we've been saying these things that we are or that we are importing are the classes or pre-converted or pre-existing class that comes with the language. And if you want to use them, then you need to import them into your namespace or into your file or into your class that you are doing. So like here we've got this namespace. What do we call a namespace? Just a container which you have the classes that you are doing for your program, right? So if you want to include anything which is outside of this namespace, that's where you need to import it using the using keyword, something like that. So if you look at it like in Java, we've got classes. We talk about this later when we're talking about the object-oriented programming using C sharp, something like that. So that's when we talk about the issue of classes, whatever. What are these classes? But basically, know that we've got a class, and this class is going to contain the data and the methods. What are methods? Are just functions that we use to call functions in C programming. So if you look at it, we've got this class like a Java class program, and then we open it and then we close it here. And then inside we've got the main method. And in C sharp, the main method have got the capital letter M. If you do not put the capital letter M, then you have a problem. It will be not knowing exactly where to start or where to start to execute your program, something like that. So it will be static void main and then string args. So it takes this parameter just like in Java. So that's why I said if you look at C sharp and Java, it's just one thing, something like that. It's as good as it's a single thing, right? So maybe let me just create a new program here. I was saving this hello world, this demo program, but let me just create a new program. So I will come here, file, new, then a project. If you have anything that you really want to ask, please do so. So here, I think what I need is the console app. C sharp, this one for console app, right? So I click this, then I say next, and then here I need to create, let me just say demo because I already have the project that I've named the demo there. Do not worry about the location where it is going to be saved. Then the next thing is to say next, and then maybe let me just say create, right? So after doing so, you see that it have created this program and it said hello world. And if you look at it, it's saying that see this one for more information. Why are they saying so? Because here I do not have the complete template of the program, right? But otherwise, um, what I have here, if I run it, it will give me the output. So they are saying if you go here, you could see the template, the actual template of how a C sharp project will, or the basic structure that you'll be having there. So if I run this, so you see I've got this hello world. Let me just click here and see what's there. Let me just click here and see what's there. So my machine is a little bit slow. It shows that I'm putting a lot of things on my machine, but it's just for a good use. Come here, it shows you that this is the okay. I hope I just need to close to SQL. It's a database, just like MySQL. I think some of you have used it before. Let me cancel it. I just want to close it so that I will save myself um, some some memory space for my machine. So this is the basic template that we are supposed to have, but it's unfortunate that this is how they are creating it for you. So if you come here, you can just convert it to just this simple program, right? Let me just remove this internal so that you have this simple program. So this is the simple program. We've got the class program, and then what we have here is just the main method. So if you run this, I'll still get this hello web, something like that, right? So we are not going to code anything, but otherwise um, that's how you create a C sharp project for mainly for the console app. So what happens is what I've done here is going to be the same with any Visual Studio IDE that you are running, but maybe what you get here, like here, I didn't get this, but what I get was I think you've seen that it was just maybe like this only. So I think now you know what it means, right? So now let's look at maybe the syntax, right? So every language comes with its own grammar. Every language comes with its own grammar. It's only that as you are coming from another angle, just suppose we've done Java, we've done C++, we've done C programming. So most of the things we are familiar with them. So what we just need to know is to know the exact thing for this language, right? Yes, we have what we have, but now we really need to learn C sharp and understand like the way we have learned any other language, right? But it will be now supposed to be easier just because we have learned something, right? So if you look at it, here on the issue of syntax, we've got the issue of using, I think I've already talked about this. So the using system means that we can use classes from the system namespace, something like that. And then on the line two, this blank line, so C sharp ignores white space, however, multiple lines makes the code more readable. And then the namespace, I think I've talked about it when I said that the namespace is just a container to organize your code there, and it's a container for classes and other namespaces. So you put all your classes maybe inside this namespace, just like that. And any other namespace that you and any other class that you want to include now, you import it through this using keyword like this. So this system is the one that have got this console write line, read line, something like that, all those things, right? Then there is the issue of these calibrations. This is just a block of code. We use it with methods, we use it with classes. So you put it to wrap your what, a block of code, something like that. And also the class is a container for data and the methods, which brings functionality to your program. Every line of code that runs in C sharp must be inside a class. I think this is something that you really need to know. And also you need to know that we end the line or a statement with a semicolon, just like what we used to do in C programming, C++, and in Java as well, right? So what else? The issue of the main, I think I've already talked about it, that the main is the main method, and you need it for each and every C sharp must have that main method. And then the issue of console is a class for of the system space. I think I've already talked about it, that this console that we have here comes from this using system, something like that. So basically, that's what we'll be doing there. So unlike Java, the name of the C# file does not have to match the class name, but they often do. So if you look at it, I think yeah, for this one, that's the very first thing that you really need to identify. Normally, we say in Java, if the file is demos or whatever, something like that, then the 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 main class also needs to be demo or something like that. But with the C#, it's not the case. You can have here the classes program here and have the main method there, and then having the file is um and have the project is what is demos. There is no problem with that. It can work. It can work. Then let's talk about how do you output. Here we use the right line. If you are working with a console application, you use the right line, the console dot right line to write to screen. Where you were saying printf, where you were saying system dot out dot print line in Java, where you are saying C out in C plus plus, we just say right line and then you start to print. I think we can experiment with all these things, right? Let me just try to explain. Here we've got the hello world. Maybe let me just experiment with just a variable. We talk about these things later. Maybe let me put a 20 there, and then let's see how best we can do this. Let me just say CW there, and then tab as a shortcut, and then maybe you can print also A there. What else can I do there? If I want to print, let me just say A, maybe plus 2 there, then print it. I'm just showing you if you want to print an output, how do you do it? Let me just run it and see what we can get there. See that I got hello world, I got a 20 there, I got a 22. Why 20 and the 22? It's just because I've printed A there and I got a 20. I've printed A plus 2, which is going to be a 22. And also, if you want to print maybe saying that a variable and maybe some string here, like maybe I want to say the value of A is. So there are ways that you can do it. Maybe you can do it by using this where we could use the format specifier like percentage %d, whatever, something like that. Here you can just say you can put 0 there, and then you could put the variable there as what is A. So what happens? It will match this value um with this 0 that we have here. So if you have got multiple variables there, you could maybe put the next thing you could put a 1 there. Maybe if I could have maybe here as if I have int b, maybe and okay, so maybe here I will put a 1 there. So what I will do there, I will put a comma there and put a b there. And then if I run this, let me run this and see. A is 20 and the value of B is that. So I think it's just easy. And you can also do the way we used to do in Java as well. I think not I think, but I'm sure it will work. It will work. Where I would say here, when I was saying the value of A is, and then maybe I will just put, and then here I would say, and the value of B is, and instead of putting this, I'll just put a plus B there. Is the okay, I left a plus here. I left a plus here. Okay, I left a plus. So it's as good as a string concatenation. I'm sure I'll get the same output. So what we used to do in Java, you can still work here, just like that. So I was supposed to put some space there. so that it will look nice. But otherwise, that's how you output the variables. That's how you do an output of of any information that you want to print to the user, that you want to print it to the user. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it. I think it's very simple. I don't think there will be any problem with this. That's how you do. Then the comments are just the same. There's single line comment, and then the there is multiple line comment, and we all know the purpose of comments. We've been always said that if you want to make your code more readable, and if you want to make your code more understandable to anyone who wants to take over from your project, you need to include comments. So it's very, very good. Even when you're writing exams, it's very, very good to put comments so that we really know that this person knows what he or what she is doing, something like that. So the comment there is just for us to know what this statement is supposed to do, so that whenever you leave an organization or whenever you leave the project to someone, that person can simply or can just get the understanding from your comments. So we all know that the comments are going to be ignored by the compiler when you run. So this is just a redundant data that will be inside your code, but it's necessary. So it's the redundancy that we want. So if you just put a comment there, it will be ignored. I think this is just the norm of doing things. So this is just for a single line. So everything will be taken as a comment here. This will be a comment. And then if you want to have a multiple line comment, you would comment here and here, something like that. So basically, that's how comments works there. They are ignored by the compiler as if they are not there. But I'm not going to talk much on it. I think it's very, very basic. And then on the issue of variables, guys, I think we've gone through this a lot of time. What is a variable? We've talked about what is a variable in C, in C++, in Java. So I don't think it's it's a new thing now. So a variable is just a container that we store data, right? During the program execution. Take it as a container where now this software, when it's running now, that's the memory that it will be using to store data when it's doing its manipulations. So normally there are primitive data type that comes with this language that we call, these are primitive data types, right? Normally it's integers, doubles, characters, uh, not a string, not a string. We also have a float there. What else? We have a float, we have a byte there, something like that. Those are some of the primitive data types. I'm talking about those data types that we most use, right? And and um, and those variables are the ones that we mostly use when you're doing our projects, whatever. Most of other variables that we are not going to talk about here, they are there, and but most of the time we are not going to use them. And some of them, even from the very, very first day that I started coding, I even never used them. And many projects that I've done, I never used them. Why? Because sometimes they are not necessary. Maybe they are there for classes to communicate, for other, maybe to communicate with the outside world, something like that. Okay, so in C Sharp, there are different types of variables. Um, so we have got this, the int to store integers, double to store floating point numbers, and then the character, the char to store characters, string, this one to store a string, bool for storing the Boolean variables, true or false, something like that, that you've got true or false. And then how do you declare a variable? Just like what we do in C and C++ in Java. You put the type first, then you put the variable name and put the value. Just like what I've done here. Int is the type of a variable, and then a is the variable name, and then you can put the equal sign, and then you could initialize it to the value that you want, or you can just declare it as int c, and then you later on give it a value, something like that. Also, you can declare the variables if they're of the same type. You can declare them. Sorry, here I can put a D, I can put F or something like that. So you can declare them as multiple variables, something like this, if they are of the same type. And then you later on, or you can just declare and initialize, there's no problem as well. something like that. There's no problem with that. I think this is what we've been doing, C in C++, something like that. So basically, that's what it is. For a string, it will be like this, string name, and then you put it inside the double quotes. Then for character, it's just single quotes. Maybe here, if I say character, maybe V, then you need to put it inside single quotes there. Maybe I'll just say V there, something like that. But if it is a string like this, then you put it in double quotes, just like this. Da, 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 da. I don't think there will be any challenge. So basically, that's how you do it there. Then for float, I think for this one, I think there's something maybe which might worth mentioning there. So if I put it like this, dot 05 there, if I put it like this, I'll get an error. Why? Because normally any floating value in C# is taken by default, it will be taken as a double number. So for it to work, you need to put an F there to tell the compiler that please take this double number as a floating number. So float and the same thing, only that. So by default, any is a double. I think it was worth mentioning. It was worth mentioning. Then what else? Displaying variables, I think I've already talked about this. Displaying variables, I think that's what I've been doing here. When I was demonstrating how do you print A, how do you print that. Then maybe the other issue is on the rules of naming identifiers. I think we've been doing C, C++, Java. We've been talking about the rules of naming identifiers, the rules of naming variables, the rules of naming classes. Can we make sure that we are always on mute? I think it will help us. Thank you. I think it's good to always make sure that we are on mute, unless if you have something that you want to say. Okay, so I was talking about the issue of naming or rules of naming identifiers. What is an identifier? The name that we give to classes, the name that we give to method, the name that we give to variable. So for us to call whatever any token that we have in our program, we need to give it a name so that we'll be able to identify it. Just like you, for us to be able to identify you, we are supposed to give you a name so that we could say, this is Bonani, this is maybe some Keliso or something like that. So that's what we really need to do. So how do we give names to variables? How do we give names to methods? How do we give names to classes? So you find out that most of the way that we used to do in Java is just the same that we are going to do here. So all C# variables must be identified with unique names, right? That's the first thing. You cannot give the same name to two different variables. And also you need to know that C# is also case sensitive, right? Some with capital letter S and some with the small letter s, they are different. Also, it is recommended to use descriptive names in order to create understandable and maintainable code. So normally, if you have got a variable to store minutes per hour, just name it minutes per hour. You really need to understand. So names can contain letters, digits, and the underscore character, right? It can contain all those things. Names must begin with a letter or underscore. So we can one or a two, whatever, something like that. It must begin with a lowercase letter and cannot contain white spaces. Names are case sensitive. Like what I've said before, my var and this my var, they are totally different. And also you cannot use reserved keywords like int and double. You cannot use them for whatever you want to do unless for its intended purpose. But there is that scenario if you really think you want to do it. Maybe I think there's scenario that to use the keywords as as the names of variables, the names of methods, whatever, something to the primitives and the non-primitives data type there. So in C sharp, like as you see here, we've got int, double, char, boolean, string. So we can have as many as we want, but these are the basic data types. We've got int, long, float, double, bool, character, string, something like that. And then these are the minimum and maximum values that you can store in an integer. And this one are the minimum and maximum value that you can store in a long. So these numbers, they're actually not really necessary for you to comprehend them, but maybe if you are now doing a system, you need to call to know that the possible values that I can have for this variable are the ones which are within this range or not, so that you would decide on the proper variable to use, something like that. We've got the double there for the boolean, something like that. So for numbers here, they are saying that numbers types are divided into two groups. We've got the integer types and then the floating point types. For integers, we use int and long. And then for floating, we use the float and the double as well. So that's what it is. I think in the demonstration, this is just basic there. This is just basic. I don't think we really need to do that. I think I've already talked about the issue of a floating point, that you need to put an F there for it to work. And then for double, you can put a D, but by default, it takes it as a what? As a double there. I think for the issue of typecasting, I think we've been doing typecasting. There's what we call implicit casting, where to not remind you to do casting there. Then there's what we call explicit casting. Casting, we are saying you are moving from one certain type to another type, something like that. Like you've got an int, and then you want to convert it to a float, something like that. So there's what we call implicit casting, which is done automatically, converting a smaller type to a larger type size. Like maybe we want to convert from an integer to a float. We know that the 2 is as good as 2.0, right? So converting 2 to a float, it doesn't need you to tell the compiler that please take this integer as a float number. It does that automatically. Even from float to a double, it just does that automatically, right? Because you are not going to lose anything there. But if it is explicit, when you need to do explicit casting, is where you might lose some data there, right? Maybe you're coming from double to an integer, right? You're coming from float to an integer, something like that. Then from there, you need to do it explicitly. Why? Because maybe you've got a 2.5 there. So when you now want to make it an integer, it will be rounded to the nearest, something like that. So that's what we really need to look at and understand, right? So when you're doing the casting now, the part of casting, this one was just implicit casting. Do not need to type. Otherwise, you just need to do like what you used to do in C. You just need to put the brackets and instead the type there. Like here, it was a double value there, and you look at it, we've put integer to say that you want to store it in an integer. So please take this double, now convert it to become an integer type, something like that. So that's what it is. Like here, I've got this double y here. If I want to make it an integer to store it in A, what do I need to do? So I cannot do just this. I need you to tell here explicitly that this is supposed to be an integer, right? So I'm trying to, I cannot zoom that much, but I wanted to try to zoom it a little so that we could have a better view, right? Could have a better because so if I do this, right? So now when I'm printing the value of A, I think you will to see that maybe let me just put this one, and then if I run it, let's see what you are going to get. So here I'll get a 30 and a 32, and then the value of A is 30, and then the value of B. What was the value of A? Did I add anything to it? Okay. So it was A and then A plus 2. Okay, so I wasn't storing the result in A. Okay, that's what I really wanted to confirm. So if you look at this one, it was rounded backward to 30, not to 31. So because of that, that's why you are supposed to explicitly tell that I'm going to convert it to an integer, because you're going to lose some data. If you lost this 0.5 and left with a 30, something like that. So that's what it is with the casting there. And then let's look at maybe so the user input. How do we take input from the user? Normally with a console, we use a right line, we use sorry, not right line, we use read line to take the input from console. So you use read line, and normally what it does when you use read line, it takes a string. It takes
But
everything as a string. Yes,
there is privilege, Mahachi.
with a hand. Okay, privilege. You can contribute, you can ask or contribute.
Sorry, sir, for the disturbance. The screen is not showing.
Is it the same for everyone?
Recently was showing, but now it's not. Maybe it's my network or
Yes, I just want to confirm with everyone.
On my
Yes,
side,
to
it's
go
fine.
on.
You can
We
still
can
see your
see you.
screen.
Let me just
our
reshare. Let me
side.
just
Okay.
reshare.
Okay. Yeah, it's not showing.
It's now showing. Okay,
Yes.
thanks. I think it was just the issue of network. It was dropping. Okay, so I was talking about the issue of when you're using read line. So it will give you the input.
Mine is showing.
Okay, thanks. So it gives
Maybe the
you.
network is fine.
Okay, so if you have any challenge, maybe you can try to rejoin as well. So when you are using read line, it gives the input as a string from the keyboard. So what you really need to do is now to convert it to the to the exact type that you really want to take or that you are storing, something like that. That's why we are seeing here there's an error if you try to say console.readline, then you put the value in edge there. So I think it's just something that you really need to know. So let me just take everything out, and then we try to play around with everything here. So what I have here, it's this variable int a. Okay, so I want to take the value from the user there, and then I will store it here. So let me use console dot read line just like this. So when you do this, I'll get an error. I cannot do this just because I'm supposed to, sorry, I didn't finish the whole code there. Okay, so what happens is when I do this, it's not going to work because this one is not a string, right? But if I put a string, sorry, if I say string name, then then I'm not going to have any error there. Just because it reads a string from the screen. Whether I've put a number, whatever, it takes it as a string. So you need to convert it later. So please, you need to know this so that you avoid making some errors there. Okay, so what can I do here if I want to assign the value in A? Let me just take everything here out, and then I will put convert dot, then I'll say to int let me say int 32, then I'll put this one, right? And then what happens now let me just write the value of A, right? Then here I would say the value, whatever you entered, you can write whatever you want there. You entered there is, then right? So now if I do this, let me run this, and then let me put maybe 50 there, and then I'll do so, then say the value that I've entered is what is 50. So guys, you really need to take note of this. You need to take, then there's a hand by God knows. Yes, you can admit yourself and contribute or ask. God knows, is that a hand or it's an odd hand? Okay. So basically, okay, you are breaking. I didn't get you, but I thought I think it's an odd hand. Okay, so basically that's what you do there. That's what you do there. So if you want to take a float there, maybe float A there, so the float B, then why convert to single? What do I have for this one? Convert to, I do not have a float, I use to single. Okay, but I want to experiment with the exact type that I have. So because this one, I want to convert it to double, let me have double there. So I think you can experiment with this. You can experiment with this and try to get the value that you want there. I'm sure you get it well. You experiment with converters where if you just type convert, then it will tell you all the methods which are available in convert, right? So if you say to, then you will see everything. If you want a character, if you want what, it will give you everything that you need. If it is a string, character, date, time, decimal, whatever. This hex string, whatever you want this, if it's a boolean, so you play around it. If you do that, it shows you everything, right? So that's how you read the input from the user. So maybe here, let me just check this out. Maybe I was supposed to just say CW, then I would say and a number there, something like that. So you would do just print and a number, then you put something like that. So basically, I think that's how you can do the output and then get the input as well. Input or input output, something like that. So if you do this, then you get the value entered is what is 90. So really, I think these are basic things to you guys. I think I trust that these are best things. Then let's talk about the operators. Just like we have done operators in C, C++, Java. I think these are some of the excuse me, basic things that we have been doing, right? So when it comes to operators, these operators are used to perform operations on variables and values. So here I've got this plus operator, which is an arithmetic operator. I think you know what it means there. If you want to add two numbers, then you use this plus symbol, right? So it's an arithmetic operator with the same effect as the plus that you used to know in C, C++, in Java, or in any other programming language, something like that, right? So on arithmetic operators, we've got all these plus, minus, multiplication, division, the percentage. Do we remember this sign? What does this sign do? The modulus. What does it do? Or maybe let me just have so that I will say if I know what I'm if people really know what we are doing here. Let me say A is initialized to A modulus 2, right? And then there will be a problem here. Okay, let me just comment this out and then let me put a 3 here. Okay, let's talk about this. What could be the value of A after A modulus 2? What could be the value there? What could be the output if I print it instead
One.
of, it will be what?
1.
One.
Remainder.
Okay, so it will be 1. So this one gives a remainder after division, something like that. So I think, guys, I don't think it would be, there is much need of me to go through um these arithmetic operators, but otherwise, if you want to divide, just use this. If you want to multiply, just use the asterisk, this one for multiplication. Then for subtraction, use this minus. And then the increment and decrement operator, the same effect that it have in C in C++ in Java, just the same, right? So this plus plus is the increment operator, this minus minus the decrement operator, which is incrementing by 1, decrementing by 1. So if I say A plus plus here, what it does, it increment A by 1. So whenever I print here, I'll get a what? I'll get A incremented by 1, right? That's why I'm getting a 2 there. And then if you say A minus minus, it will be decremented by 1. I think these are the basic things that we really, so I'll get a 0 there, right? I'll get a 0. So I think these are basic things that we really need to just familiarize ourselves with. And I think I've also talked about this before. The minus minus and the plus plus here before this. So there's postfix and prefix. So what we have done here, it was a postfix where we would increment, use the value of A and then increment. So here, when you say minus minus A, what it means is that you decrement the value of A first and then you use that value that you get after decrementing. So it's different when you put the minus minus before A and you put the minus minus after A. So if I do this, I'll get the output as 0 there. Why? Because it's decrementing A and then use the value of A. But if I say A minus minus like this, yes, it will decrement the value of A, but it will not immediately use that value. So you see here, I'm getting a 1. So I think it's just the same. If you use a plus plus here, uh, so if you use a plus plus, so I need to just admit these people want to join. Okay, so if I do this, the A plus plus, I'll get a 2 there. But sorry, I'll not get a 2, I get a 1, sorry. Why? Because I've said use the value of A and then increment A later. But if I put the plus plus behind, what it means is that I'm incrementing the value of A and then use the result that I get. So there is the prefix there. And then the postfix is the one that I demonstrated there. So that's what happens with these things. All right, that's all. Then there is the assignment operator there. The assignment operator is the one that we use here, that you see as an equal sign. That's the assignment operator. In programming, we call it the assignment operator. We use it to initialize variable, to set values in variables. So sometimes you will see it as a combination with other arithmetic and other logical operators. It will be now carrying a different meaning, right? And most of them that we use are these ones. These are most of the ones that we use here. Otherwise, most of these ones, we are not going to use them, right? They add a little bit some complexity there. So I think this is the basic that you must see people doing there, right? So when you see plus, then the assignment operator, what it means, we are saying that x must be equal to x plus the value that you want to add. So like here, x plus equal 3. You are saying x equals to x plus 3. So you are adding x to 3 and then store the value in x, something like that. So if you see minus, they just do the same. If you see this one, it's just doing the same. I think we've done this before, unless if there is really any need or any challenge, but otherwise it's just the same. Like here, I can say Instead of say a plus 2 here, I can just put the plus here, or putting the modulus here, like so it will be like a is equals to um a modulus 2, something like that. And if I do so, then I take the result and put in a. So if I do so, you find out that I'll still get the same result 1 there. So you could change this to plus. What it means, you'll be saying a is equals to a plus 2. So it will be a 5 there. 3 plus 2, it will be a 5 there, something like that. So I think this is just basic simple code there. So I'll get an A there as 5, right? So I don't know, guys. I think these are basic there. Then there are the comparison operators that we use to compare. So the comparison operators are used to compare two values or variable. This is important in programming because it helps us to find answers and make decisions. So you can use comparisons operators like this one. Is it x greater than y? So it gives you a true or false, something like that. So we have got this for equal to, if you want to compare if two variables are equal, they not equal as well. We've got the greater than, the less than or equal to, or the greater than or equal to, and then the less than or equal to. We use them to compare things. If you want to compare things, like here, if I want to compare a there, I would ask is if 4 is greater than a there. And if I run this, what do I get there? I'll get a false. So it will give you either true or false for the comparison operator. I would ask if 4 is equal to a, and if I run this, I'll get a what? I'll get a false as well there. So just the same with these operators, you can apply greater than or equal to the not part in here, which is if I put the not there, the not equal, if you check, so you want to check if 4 is not equal to a, and I'm sure I'll get a true there, because a will be equal to 5. So yes, I'll get a true. A is not equal to 4, something like that. So that's how you work with these comparison operators. Then there's what you call the logical operators. The logical operators are the ones that we use when you do the comparison there, whatever, and you want to check maybe 2 or maybe more than one, when you want to do more than one comparison, something like that, then you use the logical operators, the and, the or, something like that, the not, something like that. So that's how these logical operators work. So there is the and. When you use the and, I think you know what it means. When you use the end logical operator that we used to do in the mathematical foundation, where you would have a truth table for an end operator, you would know that it will be only true when both inputs are true. So like here, it can only work when both x is less than 5 and x is less than 10. That's when it can give you a true. Otherwise, it will give you a false. And or you just need one of the inputs to be what to be true. So here, one of the condition must be true for us to get a true. Here, logical or not, we are just flipping what we have. It's just the negation. So if you have a true, we negate that, we get a false, something like that. So that's what will be happening with these logical operators, right? Then the math, this one is just a class which is there in C#. You can use it to round, to find the minimum and the maximum between numbers, whatever, something like that. 5 maximum or 5 and 10, you get a 10 there. That's the maximum. The minimum is where here it will be 5. Then if you want to find a square root, if there is a code which asks you maybe you want to find a square root, whatever, you can use this method dot square root like this to get the square root of 64. So I think for if you want absolute values, this one to give you positive 4.7. That's the absolute value of minus 4.7, something like that. If you want to round numbers, whatever, so you can play around with the math class as well and make use of it. Maybe what you would want to talk about strings, is that necessary? I think you can go and look at the strings. So strings normally, even in Java, strings comes with the special methods, right? You can do string concatenation. Um, you can have the string length. by using the length method or something like that. So strings are just like arrays, something like that. Yes, is that a contribution? Hello? I'm not, I'm not getting you. Atwe, Atwe. I think it's good to mute unless if you want to contribute. Okay. So I was talking about the strings when I was saying that if you look at it here, you can use dot length to get the length of a string. So I was saying that normally strings are just almost like arrays. Here we've got to upper and to lower. If you want to make the whole string in uppercase, you just use to upper. If you want to make it a lowercase, just use to lower there. I don't think there's much things that you want to talk about. The concatenation is how you join different strings. You can use a plus to join uh two string like first name and last name. So this one become John Doe, something like that. And it will be this name, something like that. So you can also use the string concat method, this one, and then you pass two strings there, then you concat, then it will join them. That's the string concatenation. It will join those two strings, something like that. So those are some of the operations that you can do. Also, you need to know if you add a string to a number, what happens there. Like here, if I come here and say instead of this, I will do say string maybe addition. What do I want to do here? I want to say I want to say 5, then I will say plus a. What do I get as an output here? If I say 5 plus a, what do I get as an output if I print the string addition here? Someone to try if I print addition here. What do I get as an output? I'm adding a string and a number there. What do I get?
5-3.
I get 5-3, right? So if you add a string and a number, what does it does string concatenation? So it take that number and then it will add it will join it to a string, something like that. So you are not going to get an 8 here. So you are going to get 5-3 just like that. So it will be a string. So that's what happens there. So I think these are just the basic things. Maybe what we really need to look at, what about the booleans? Booleans which are true or false. So it's that these are just variables which are going to contain true or false. And we normally use the bool data type. That's what we normally used to do in standard C library. That's why I've always said that when it comes to this, it's just the C++, Java that we'll be learning here. So here we'll be using bool, in Java we'll be using boolean, but here it will be this bool, and then you assign it either true or false, something like that. Like here I will say bool C either true there that you can put, or you can put a false there, something like that. Da, 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 da. So if you do this, you get an error. If you put a capital letter there, it's a small letter f. Da, da, da. Okay, so I think that's what you need. Is there anything there that you really want? I think we've talked about this before. Then let's look at the if statement. So normally you now make use of the booleans now, the logical operators. Remember, we've said that they'll give you either a true or a false. I think we've demonstrated we're able to print Z4 less than this, whatever. It was giving me a true or a false, something like that. So now you make use of those to make a decision, right? So we use the if statements to make a decision. so that we either do something or not. So if you look at it, the if statement that you use to write in C, the if statement that you use to write in C++, the if statement that you use to write in Java, it's just the same as the one that you're going to write in C sharp. So I think that's where I was saying I think we really need to appreciate the journey that we have came so far. I think we just need to appreciate it, right? Why? Because if you look at it, it puts you in the right step. Now it will be easier for you to learn all these other languages. Try it with any language that you think you really want to learn. You find out that most of the basics that makes up the programming language are the ones that you already know. So if you look at this, we've got the if, the else if, whatever, all those things, right? So when to use the if, right? So if is to specify a block of code to be executed if a specified condition is true, and then the else block, we know that that's what is going to be executed if the if block is not actually executed. And then the else if part, we use it when you have maybe more than one condition to test on the go, right? And then the switch statement, we use it to specify many alternative blocks of code to be executed. So like here, if you look at it's if, then the condition, then these blocks. That's what we used to do in C. That's what we used to do in Java. It's just repeating and repeating. But I think it's always good to repeat so that we make sure that we do not remove, we do not leave that gap, right? So here I could say, let me just put a value here, maybe 40 here. So I say if, was it an if, must have these blocks, right? So here I must have a condition here. So I will say if A is greater than 30, then I'll print out CW there. I'll print out that A is greater than 30. Then I'll put an else part, just like if we fail. So if this condition is false, then we do what is in the, so here I will say that A is less than that, something like this. So if you look at it, what we used to do in C, it's just the same with this, right? There is nothing new there. If you really look at it, it's just the same thing. There is really nothing new. So I get that A is greater than 30. Why? Because A is 40. So basically, okay, let me take this up here. Okay. So basically, that's the if statement there, right? So if I put here a 50 there, right? So here I'll be saying A is greater than 50 or A is less than 50 there. So I don't know, guys. Is there anyone with a challenge with these basics? The if, the for loop, the while loop, whatever. How does this work? Is there anyone with a challenge on this? It's not a problem. We're going to have a challenge with that. Why? Because we are learning C sharp. So do not get that intimidation. If you really need that help, I think it's always good to say it. I don't know if there's any challenge with this, but otherwise, that's the if statement there. There isn't much of it. For the shorthand, if you have for the shorthand, if, I don't think it's necessary for us, but it's necessary, the ternary operator. I think you really need to go and look at the ternary operator as well. Go and look at it at your own spare time. Learn the operator, the ternary operator, and maybe try to differentiate how does it differ from the normal if statement. Why do we need this ternary operator? I think it's very, very good to invest your time in this as well. So there's also a shorthand if else, which is known as the ternary operator, because it consists of three operands. So that's why it is ternary, because it has three operands. So it can be used to replace multiple lines of code with a single line. So it is often used to replace simple if-else statement. So whenever you have if-else statement, like what we have here, if-else, you can replace all this by this ternary operator. So we have got the condition there that we check. And then if this condition is true, then here we've got the expression here, true, and then otherwise it will be false. So in other words, we either assign true or false depending on the condition that we have, something like that. So here, like you've got in the time is equals to 20, and the time, if time is less than 18, we say good day. Else, we say good evening, something like that, right? So here it's as good as we are checking, is it time less than 18? Then we will to say good day or good evening, something like that. So here I say if time is less than 18, let's say good day. Otherwise, let's just say good evening. So result, we put either good day or good evening, depending on what we have here. So it's ternary operator because we've got 1, 2, 3. But the first thing is the condition, then followed by the values that you want to put, either true or false, depends with what we get here. So we put the value that we want here, depending on the result that we get here, something like that, and then we store it wherever, something like that. That's how you make use of the ternary operator there. Just thought it's very good for me to give it time as well, the time that it deserves. Then there's the switch statement. I think this switch statement is just like the switch statement that we used to know, right? For this one, what do you do here? You have got the switch, you've got the expression, and then we've got the cases, right, on the switch statement. You put the case, case X, case Y. Then we end up with the default case. I think we've talked about this before, and you need to break each and every case. I think we've talked about this before as well. If you do not break a case, you know what happens. I think you then switch keyword then, and then here you put um something which is going to evaluate to a constant thing there. So you can put a character, you can put maybe numbers, something like that. Like here, let me pass A, right? So here I'm selecting case number 40, but let me just select case number 2, something like that. So it will match that with any case that I'm putting here. So here, let me put case, maybe case 0 there, like that. Then I will do what I want to do. Then I'll break the case there. And then after breaking the case, what do? I'll put case 1 there. And then on case 1, then I'll break the case 1 after I put the code that I want there, right? And then the next thing to do is to put case 2. And then I will break after doing what I want there. And then maybe after this, let me put the default case. And then this default case, it's not, there's no need to break the default case because it's the last case so on. So if you want, you can break it, but there's no need of breaking the last case there because that's the last case that you are going to have, something like that. Okay. So I think I'm supposed to wrap up with what I was thought I will do, but I think so what you can do is here, maybe let me just on case 0 there, let me just say CW there, I'll put a 0 there. If it is case 1, let me say console write line. Then if it is case 2, let me just write that you have choose case 2 there. Something like that. Da, 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 da. What have I done there? Okay, this code is supposed to be inside this case 2. Okay. And then inside here, maybe I'll just need to say invalid selection, something like that. Invalid selection or input, something like that. So it will choose according to what I put here in A. So now it's going to choose case 2. So it is going to print 2, something like that. So I think here, yes, I got a 2. What if I put a 5 here? What do I get? Someone to tell me if I put a 5, what do I get? If I put a 5, what could be the output? If I put a 5, what could be the output then?
I think invalid selection.
Invalid selection, right? So that's what I will get there. I'll get invalid selection. That's what it is. So that's it on a switch statement. If there's any challenge, guys, please do ask. So the switch expression is evaluated once. So this one is only evaluated once, and then it will match with any case, something like that. So that's what happens there. So let's talk about the while loop, the issue of loops. I think for loops, people tend to have problems with the loops, but I just think it's the easiest thing that happened to computer programming. Just think you just need to familiarize yourself with these loops and get to understand how do they work and all those things, something like that. But otherwise, when you look at loops, loops can execute a block of code as long as a specified condition is reached. So you are looking at a condition. So if that condition is true, we keep on iterating the same code. Just think of me, I want to print maybe numbers from 1 to 10. This is Mr. Chimana. I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. What does he do? Maybe he prints one day, and then what does he do next? He prints to the until he reaches what he reaches uh 10 there, something like that, until I reach up to 10. So look at how you'll be doing that. You'll be repeating and repeating and repeating, right? Repeating the same line of code 10 times. Just think about that, right? So but that's when these loops come to your risk there. That's when these loops come to your risk. Instead of doing this, you can just have a while loop and then print from 1 to 10, iterating the same code. So what I just need is to just have this code wrapped inside the what? Inside a while loop, right? So it just need to be wrapped inside a what? A while loop, and then I will design a way that this while loop would what? Will become false, right? So here, maybe let me put my a as 1 there. So I want to say as long as a is less than or equal to 10. So I want to print what? I want to print a. But if you just do this, what happens there? It will keep on printing 1. Why? Because we are not incrementing what? We are not incrementing a after printing. So we want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 10. So if you just do this, it will just come here and compare. So you create an endless loop here. It will check, is it a less than 1 less than or equal to 10? Yes, print 1. 1 less than or equal to 2? Yes, print 1. So it keep on iterating this, printing 1, 1, 1, 1. So how do you do for it to change the value? So you need to say a maybe plus then equal to 1. So you are incrementing a by 1, or just say a plus plus, or a is equals to a plus 1, something like that. You are incrementing a by 1, something like that. So if I do this, then I'll get 1 to 10, just like that. I think it's easy. It's very, very easy for this one. So that's how you make use of these loops, right? So you can go and experiment with it. But otherwise, if you look at it, the while loop that you used to write in C, it's just same as the while loop that you used to write here. So if you use a do while, is where there's a do while loop where you will say do this while the condition is true, something like that. I think I will need to put a do here, and then here I'll put the while down here. So you put the condition here, and then you need to terminate it as well. So what happens? It will check, it will do this task first, then check the condition later. So you are guaranteed that this one is going to run at least once. Was it you run first, then you compare this, again, then compare this, something like that. So if I do this, I'll get a 1 up to 10, just like that. So that's what is happening there. So that's the do while loop there. So you can also play around with it. Then there is a for loop. For the for loop, I think it's just the same as a while loop, right? Just the same as the while loop. I'm just waiting for it to open. So for the for loop, I think you use it when you know exact amount of time, that amount of iterations that you want, the exact number of iterations that you want, right? But if you do not know, you just need to have a while loop and then you go through the expression, something like that. So when you know exactly how many times you want to loop through a block of code, you need to use a for loop instead of a while loop, something like that. So if you look at it, we've got the for loop with the statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3. I think this is what we've been doing. Statement 1, it will be a statement on its own, or a line of code. This one will be treated as a line of code again. This one will be treated as a line of what? As a line of code. And you need to know that this one only execute once, right? Initially. And then this block and this block are the ones that keep on executing with its order that will be happening there, that you just need to know. So if you look at this one, it was an example of a code which was printing from 0 to up to 4. So maybe what I would want to do is to take this out. Normally let me have an I there for something, for one reason there, right? So I'm going to say for start a contribution. Okay, let me put. So normally here I could say if I first thing I want to initialize I to 0 there. Okay, let me just put this. So you can even have int I is equal to 0, I something like that. Then I must be less than, let me just say less than 5 there. Then I plus plus, something like that. What am I going to do here? Let me just print out the value of I just like that. Nothing much that I want to do. So if you look at it, I don't think learning C# will be hard for you guys, just because you've done C, you've done C++, you've done Java. I don't think this one will be very, very hard for you, because you grasp this very, very easy. If you look at it, we are just repeating things. Nothing new that we've actually learned. And just for how you print, how do you get the input, something like that, and maybe some few things, but otherwise everything will be just the same. You see when you're doing the classes, something like that, that we'll be just talking about one thing. But otherwise, this is a for loop. So what happens here? First, it does the initialization part of this variable that we'll be using. And after that, it checks the condition if it is true. And then after that, it executes this if it is true. Then it will increment the value of I, check, do this, increment, check, do this, increment, check, do this, something like that, until this becomes false. And then it will goes out of a for loop. So I want you to go also to go and experiment with the continue and break. How does continue and break work with this, right? You would go like here, if I want to jump, what can I do? What can I do? I want to say, if, let me demonstrate the continue there. I want to say, if then I'll say continue there, and then I'll terminate it, something like that. So I want to say if I is equal to 3, right? I want to see what happens. So here we'll be printing the value of I from 0 to 4, right? So I want to see when I is equal to 3, what happens if I put continue there. So you see that we are missing a 3 here. So the 0, 1, 2, 4. What happened there? We have jumped. When I is equal to 3, when you say continue, it jumps that iteration to go to the next iteration. So anything which comes after that continue will be jumped. So if I remove this if condition and just put continue, so it will not print anything there. It will jump that iteration. So when it reaches the continue to jump, that iteration goes to the next iteration. So when I was equal to 3, it jumped that to, instead of printing this, jumped to the next iteration, which was the 4 when I is equal to 4, and then it printed the 4, something like that. But if you put a break there, it would definitely jump out of the for loop there. If I put a break there, then you see 0, 1, 2, you will not see a 3, you will not see a 4, something like that. That's what I wanted you to go and play around with that. So that's the break and continue there. We are not going to open it. Then let's look at the issue of arrays, guys. I think on the issue of arrays, you really need to look at this as well. Just like the arrays that you used to write in C, in Java, all those are just the same as the arrays that you'll be writing here, right? So you need to take note that arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable instead of declaring separate variables for each value. I think that this is what we've been talking about all these 3 years back. So to declare an array, define the value. So define the variable type with the square brackets like this, string, then cars. Then these cars will be taken as a string, as an array of strings. Like here, you can initialize it Volvo, BMW, Ford, Mazda, just like that. And then you know that arrays have got index from 0 up to the 1 minus any minus 1, whatever. If you've got an array of size 5, then you know that that array is going to have the index from 0 to 4, something like that. Index will be the position of these elements and how you can access them. So you can access them through this, something like that. I think it's very, very basic things to do there. Also, I think you can also use the new keyword to declare, yes, something like this. That's what I wanted to talk about. To create an array, you can use the new keyword. So I think we really need to know this one and understand it. But these are basic things. So I can have int. Let me admit this one. So I can have int, maybe b, or maybe ar. Then I'll put maybe values there. So I would, so then I'll terminate it. So if I want to loop through this whole thing, what instead of then when I'm saying I less than 5, then maybe I'll say array dot. I'm sure there's length there. If I do this, then I'll go through the entire thing, the entire array. Then let me remove this and then see what you have there. Instead of print I there, then what we print is the array there, and then we put the index there. I now will be put as the index there. That's how you loop through the entire array there. If I do this, what I'll get is the entire array 1, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just like that. So I think these are just basic things, guys. These are just basic things. I don't think there will be any challenge with this one. I think I was supposed to use the dark mode. I've been on this screen for too long. But otherwise, that's it with an array. But take note of go and experiment with this one, where you will declare an array using the new keyword and then play around it and see how it plays there. But otherwise, you'll be just doing the same. And also, maybe we do it when we're doing demos where we do maybe try to sort the elements of an array, something like that, this sorting of arrays. Let's just talk about it later. I think we'll talk about it later. There are those that by using sort, it can sort, but not using this sort of sorting, of using those that comes with the arrays. We'll talk about it later. Then there's what you call methods. So I think what we do is tomorrow we are going to do another tutorial, and on our tomorrow's tutorial, we're going to look at methods, and then we'll look at object-oriented programming concepts, and then maybe on our third or final tutorial, we look at not final, but we look at forms, and then on our final tutorial, I hope we have time to do that. Maybe we need 3 tutorials. Then we look at after forms, look at the final tutorial. We'll try to combine everything, try to answer questions, maybe in an exam situation. How do we do that or something like that? But otherwise, guys, this is the basics of C sharp. I don't know if there are contributions or questions. I think this is the time to ask before I go. Maybe if there are questions or contributions. Okay, so if there are no questions, it means everything is clear there. And there are no contributions as well.
Angozotowandira ku.
Hello? Was it a question or what? Okay, guys, so if we are not talking, I think I can call it a day. I don't know. On one